Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonya Farrell. This is Business Spotlight in partnership with Cross Rhythms City Radio and Baba Baboon. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the team from Logic Resourcing. We've got Lee and Steve. Hello.
How are you doing, Sonya? Yeah, nice to be here.
Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Really good.
Right, okay, Logic Resourcing. I'm going to ask you, because there might be people, there probably is people out there who are listening, but what is Logic Resourcing all about?
Cool. Well, we're a recruitment agency based locally in Tunstall. We've been going now, gosh, how long has it been? About 8 years. The reason why, behind Logic, I suppose, we both fell into recruitment, didn't we? We met at university. Steve and I did at Staff Uni, both Stokies, born and bred, and we fell into a role at Phones for You, didn't we, in internal recruitment. You were...
I've not been able to get rid of him since.
So you started?
Yeah, so I started at Phones for You, originally kind of recruiting for the store staff nationwide, and I said to Lee there's an opportunity to go in, so he joined, and kind of together you took responsibility for the store management recruitment, so recruiting all of the kind of managers across the 600 kind of branches in the UK, and I was looking after the head office functions, so looking after the contact centre, sales and service, but also all of the support functions, for everything from IT, through to finance.
Yeah, and it was a great introduction into recruitment. Fast forward, you went into HR, didn't you? We met up again later in our careers working for the Youth Hostel Association. Right. I was their head of recruitment. You were a HR business partner. Yeah. But really, that kind of internal start in life gave us a different perspective on recruitment. So prior to starting Logic, we'd never actually worked for another agency. We'd only ever witnessed recruitment and HR from an internal perspective. So we knew what businesses wanted from a recruitment process. And when we did start Logic Resourcing, it was kind of a logical process behind getting that person in, not only, what interview techniques worked best internally, getting the right culture fit for the person that's not only going to come on board, but stay there and be the next superstars within an organisation. So, that's the kind of present day.
And, that story as well, working together, meeting at university, continuing that sort of friendship, but then transitioning into business. Yeah. I mean, do you remember what that was like? Because anyone starting off in business, and I've, many guests in here who have either been new starters or they've been in business for over 40 years. Yeah. Always remember that first day when they decided to do it. And it's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I think, Lee had been on about it for years to me. I think when we used to go on our lunch at Phones for You, we'd sometimes take a walk of the industrial park. It'd be like, we should start up an agency. And I was always against it and quite anti-agency because I suppose it always came across that agencies were quite sales driven and sales focused, and it was very much just a numbers kind of game. And I suppose that bit didn't massively kind of motivate me. But I think I'd had a really bad week where I'd been in London, I think, all week, and Lee called me and said we should start up an agency, and then that was it. So we agreed. And I remember kind of meeting up in a coffee shop with our kids at the time and the family. They went off to walk around Trentham Gardens, and we started building a website from a kind of coffee shop.
It was crazy, really, and it was we were both at the. I think it was good that we didn't do it when we were younger because we learned so much internally. But it was certainly a shock to the system working for a big company where you've got HR team and IT team, everybody around you that you need. You've got big budgets to, reality set when we started in a first office, which was a shoebox size office where we couldn't actually be on the phones at the same time. It was that small. And it was just us two with laptops and, hit the kind of calling up all contacts and, trying to get a first little bit of work. So,
but I think that was almost there, kind of doing that. I said it was the best year I've ever experienced in running a business and with the subsequent 7 after, because I don't think any of us knew whether it was going to work or not. It was something on a whim that I remember telling my wife that, I'm going to leave my job. We'd just had a child at the time, and you'd been the same, and saying, I've never done it before, but I'm going to give it a go and see how it goes. And I remember looking at her thinking, you're mad. She didn't say yes or she didn't say no. But I think it was that kind of that first year, there was no expectation, there was no pressure. It was either going to work or it wasn't, and if it didn't, I'd probably go back and get another job. So it felt, going to do it was the right step, and it felt kind of great. But then after you delivered a year 1, then there becomes more pressure and expectation to deliver a year 2. And I think that's been the harder thing to contend with, hasn't it? You know, in the subsequent years.
And you almost, we always say, we still feel like we're working internally. In the businesses we work with, we still get nervous before interviews. If we've put a candidate forward and they're being interviewed, you'll still get that flutters. And you know, we want it to work for our customers just like we're working as part of their team. And as well as the pressure to, you know, to keep the business going, to grow the business, to do well, that you also feel that responsibility to our customers, that we want it to work for them. And, you know, so far, so good.
I think that's what makes it nice. I think the people we work with are generally, we work quite closely together. We've got relationships where we always pick up the phone to each other and, you know, chat as, not even recruitment sometimes, you know, just in general about things, the market, I've seen this, X, Y, and Z. And I think that's where we almost still get, it doesn't feel as kind of transactional as you know, client versus us. Actually, we're working for their business, you know, ultimately.
Just leading on from that then, I mean, from what you're saying there as well, for me, it shows that you care. A business that really cares, and it cares about, you know, the people that you work with. But how is the recruitment process? You know, you've touched on a couple of things there, but what are the challenges now that you can see that businesses are actually facing with the recruitment?
So I think recruitment has changed so much, even since we started the business. Now, we used to be able to, you know, go out, meet a company, take a brief, advertise the role, and we would always kind of proactively search and headhunt and develop, you know, our own databases. But you could always rely on, you know, a steady flow of candidates coming in. But certainly since COVID, the actual quality candidates, the numbers that apply to each vacancy have dwindled. The likes of Indeed with Easy Apply means that, you know, candidates can apply to up to 30 jobs in a 20-minute sitting, the stats show. So
one-click apply, although it's, in many ways, people have seen it as a positive for the industry because it makes people to apply for jobs. People have no engagement and buy into that job. You know, when you go back to the days where we first left uni and you wait for your Wednesday Sentinel, then you would circle what you wanted. Then you
I remember that.
And in many ways, that's the first step of people self-selecting in or out. If you're going to have to make the conscious effort to get the Sentinel, then you're going to circle your job. Then you've got to create a cover letter that often had to be either posted or specially emailed out with the application. There was intent and there was, you know, a want that people wanted to do that, whereas most of our clients struggle if they do use Indeed. You know, really low contact rates where, because loads of people are blasting multiple apps out, they often don't know who they've applied to, what they've applied to. There's no affiliation with that role at that point. It's like, sorry, I don't know which role was it again, you know, I haven't applied. So it has become so much more transactional. But we started out as well, I mean, we used every job board that was available, and we're probably about now to get rid of pretty much every job board on the market because they just don't function in the way they function. And I think that's not, whether that's a generational shift in candidates where the expectation now is that, you know, they'll sit there and potentially wait for you to be able to kind of contact them and talk to them about an opportunity. But I think that's maybe the biggest shift, isn't it? It
is, and I think for us, our stats, so over 90% of the roles we fill, or just about 90%, are all through proactive search or database or previous relationships. So I think for us, if we can't rely on the likes of sticking an advert on Reed or Indeed or CV Library, if companies are just doing that, then possibly they're not getting full access to the full pool or the best pick of candidates. So that's probably the biggest is access to candidates. We find now it's a lot more personal to get that candidate. Sometimes we can build a relationship with a candidate for 2 years, like kind of prepping them and speaking to them and finding out what the perfect role's like. And then once we get that vacancy, we can say, oh, do you know what? This ticks all of your boxes. I know you're quite happy and you're not scowling Indeed every day, but I've got this opportunity. And that's when the magic happens, and that's when the value of a recruiter comes in. I would say. I
was going to say, it's that, again, that human interaction. You know, technology, as we all know, can be a wonderful tool. But from what you've just said there, is really interesting. Now that can also be a detriment to the recruitment.
In certain sectors, somebody's getting tapped up. That person can be getting tapped up every day because the candidates are a lot more accessible. So prior to LinkedIn and your other, you know, database search opportunities, it was hard to access candidates unless you were kind of cold calling the office that they worked in and trying to work out names. Whereas that person in a desirable sector is getting hit up every day by a company trying to tempt them, you know, out into something.
And with AI messages now, it's so easy. It's so easy, and there's so much. I think people are getting lost, almost desensitized now to this fuzz. So from an employer's point of view, it's so easy for candidates to apply. They can just spray applications forward and then hide under the desk and avoid every phone call after because they're overwhelmed. From a candidate's point of view, they're getting hit up now by AI messages. I've seen your profile, you'll be a fantastic fit. So I think there's this real focus and emphasis on a personal touch now and relationship-driven recruitment to get the best. So I think that's where, as an agency that does do that personal touch, that's where we're getting most of our wins at the minute and can add most value.
I mean, from the business side, we've just mentioned there the business side as well, the challenges that they can face by these things happening with all this modern technology. And you touched there on the candidate side, which is what I was going to ask you as well, because we're talking a lot about the businesses and how they're struggling to recruit. Do you think then, and this just might sound like a silly question I'm just going to ask here, but do you think then a candidate is actually applying, like you said, they're almost scattergunning themselves around when they're hitting these buttons and applying so quick, that they're doing themselves a disservice by thinking they've got to do it instantly instead of really honing in and understanding what the roles are?
100%. But I think then again, that's where you have to alter your recruitment process. You have to accept that candidate is probably interviewing for a number of different opportunities or is interested in a number of different opportunities. So how do you tailor your recruitment process to be able to inform that candidate? Because again, our personal opinion is everyone should be able to self-select in and out on an opportunity. If you try and push anyone down a road, then it is never going to work out in the end. And I think that's where we've done that from day one, is actually I'm going to give you the information, the opportunity. You need to weigh up that opportunity and how does that fit against either your career aspirations, your personal commitments that you've kind of got, does the industry, whatever it has to fit. Otherwise, in the end, you don't get that person to interview, you don't get that person to accept the offer, and that person doesn't stay.
And that's advice to business owners, is they have to look at, or hiring companies, they have to look at recruitment differently. It used to be, right, you need to tell me why you want to come and work for my organisation. Well, now it isn't. Now it's, as an employer, I need to articulate my offering, tell people why this is a great place to work, tell somebody why I should leave the company down the road and come and work from me. And that should be built into every step of their recruitment process, from the advert that should capture what makes it great to the initial call, which is an opportunity to sell to that candidate, just to make sure, and there is a selection process throughout to make sure the right candidate comes in, but it's very different.
It's a lot more two-way, isn't it, than kind of it used to be, whereas some of the businesses that are still quite traditional and come in and drill somebody in an interview, they don't tend to do that well in the end. They don't win the candidate in the end, because ultimately that candidate comes in to get a sense of feeling about what that business is, what your culture is, what your organisation is, and a lot of that happens just from when they walk through your threshold of your door. It happens when you make your walk from the reception through to the interview room. It happens when you sit down the interviewer, and what they display is ultimately how they get a feeling of what it's going to be like to work.
And a candidates now, I mean, I remember listening to a talk once. It was actually someone in HR, funnily enough, and I know your background's in this, so you might be able to elaborate on this a little bit more, but candidates as well, and you mentioned their culture and businesses selling that and understanding why that is important now and it's relevant. But do you see now more and more like candidates over the last 12 months or recent years or instead not interested in what product they sell, not interested in what service they do? It is about those core values and those beliefs, and also maybe that community aspect as well.
100%. And I think all recruitment should lead with culture and values, because ultimately that has to align. If and there's nothing wrong with not having a fluffy environment that's all like Google. Sometimes we're honest to the nth degree. If your office that you're working in is a porter cabin, or if it is somewhere that is got wallpaper hanging off, a certain proportion of the candidates will go, I don't care. That doesn't bother me. What I want is a great place where I feel valued and appreciated and all the other kind of stuff. But some people go, I went to the, I would either go to the interview or I don't want to work in that environment. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you have to make sure that is aligned, in the end, that you both have the same values and the same kind of cultural kind of outlook. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
And does it matter on the size of the organisation? Are there any sort of different methods of recruitment for different sectors, or or different sizes of a business, or is it all the same ladder?
Yeah, there's different methods, and like businesses aren't carbon copies of each other, we find. So what suits one business might suit another, but I think the fundamentals have to sort of stay the same. I think that we've noticed a shift in terms of going back, sort of 10 years ago. One of the big pulls for Phones for You was it's a huge company, there's 600 stores, it's this profitable, it's that profitable, you can climb the ladder. Well, that's less appealing now to a lot of people. A lot of people are actually saying, do you know what, there's loads of red tape there. The idea of a smaller family-run business is really appealing to me. But in terms of the actual interview process and the core, what you want to get out from it, you want to make sure the culture and values aligned. You want to make sure the skill set is there for whatever role they're going to do. And a big one, which a lot of recruiters or companies don't get, is that career trajectory as well. So does that marry up with where they not just doing the role now, but is it going to give them fulfillment over the next few years? And if you marry all of those up, that's when you get somebody that's going to come on board, is going to love working for your company, is going to work hard and going to add the most value. So yeah,
I think the biggest thing we were taught, wasn't it, early doors in working recruitment, is you need to listen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what a lot of people do. So sometimes the company or recruiter has their own agenda before you've even started, and actually if you just listen, you will understand what it is that person is looking for or looking to achieve. If you're trying to push your agenda, trying to coerce them or trying to convince them, it just doesn't work in the end. So actually, we used to do back in the day, Phones for You used to do call listening sessions, and actually the candidate should be talking for the majority of that process, and you should be listening, really. And it was funny sometimes when you used to look at the kind of calls and some of the interviewers who were talking majoritively, but you've not got out of what you need to be able to make a conscious decision in the end.
See, we were spoiled because we were brought up on metrics, on we had to make. I put a post on LinkedIn the other day. I reckon between us we've probably done nearly 10,000 sales telephone interviews, and we were measured on the success rate of the people came in. We looked at the stats on what percentage we were talking versus the candidate, if they came on board and did well, and
so there would always be how many show up, because if you're having an area director's time, you need to make the candidates who are going to show up because they were taking a time out of the diary to be able to kind of be in that store for that day. Then from that, it needed to be how many people would be kind of accepted, and then go on to be able to see how many people were retained, in post after so long. So it was always about kind of getting good quality outcomes in the end.
And we've talked about and discussed, challenges for businesses who you work with and also candidates. But what about, and I know we've kind of whisked over it a little bit, but what about people like yourselves who have got businesses in the recruitment industry? What challenges or what are the biggest barriers would you say that you actually face when you're going up against, whether it's competition or you're actually going for a tender process?
Yeah. So I think the recruitment market has been tough since pretty much since we started the business. We started, we had COVID, we shut down, we opened up, we shut down. The economic, recruitment businesses generally go well when the economy is thriving and businesses are hiring and taking on. I suppose from our perspective, we've adapted quite a bit in terms of we're specialising a lot more now in sales, commercial positions and marketing. And purely, we've made the decision to kind of focus because it's easy for us to develop those strong relationships with the core bulk of candidates in a certain sector. So companies know us and see us as experts in that sales and recruitment. Well, we know we've got this core of candidates that we've been building relationships up with years that we can then just slot into position.
That's been the biggest change in the industry. Actually, going from where people believed that you needed to grow large recruitment teams and have an agency that was 20 plus people, actually almost going back to that micro business where you're a specialist in your field and your kind of core is where it is, because candidate ownership or having relevance in your field is now becoming a lot more important than being a one-stop shop for all. Because when you kind of go back to what we're talking about at the very beginning, where actually access to candidates in a pool it's become a little bit more kind of challenging to kind of get those right type of people. And I think it's always about the right type of people. Like Lee said, we might be talking to that person for a couple of years, and when you're ready for your move, they're going to come to me, and then we're going to be able to kind of help them to find the kind of next role. So it has really shifted, going more towards being a niche and a specialist in what you do is the most important thing in recruitment.
And off the back of that, you said the kind of competition. So we generally don't work a lot of roles against other agencies because our approach is more, we see it as more of a partnership with the businesses that we support. So we might act a bit more of their internal team. So some of the customers are always, there at the end of the phone if straight away if they need a hire. Some of them say, can you keep your eye open for this? It's not now, but if you see the ideal person that's going to come on board and add value, kind of let us know. So, and we're also there for, if they want just advice on writing an advert or the recruitment process, or, we try and do that full kind of partnership piece with them. So it's not so transactional. It's more a partnership approach. And, when 3 or 4 agencies are working on one position, it becomes a race to sling a CV forward first. And that's not how you get the best quality. You end up, you're at risk of damaging your reputation if everybody's fighting over a candidate. And it's miles apart from the way we normally do recruitment.
So now then, we're in a new year, to a new year, and Logic Resourcing, you've already mentioned, just been going over 8 years.
Yep.
So how are you kicking off, should I say, 2026, and what, I'm going to ask you, exciting plans have you now got in the pipeline for the future?
We've it's been a really busy year. It's been a good year for us. Next year's going to be dead exciting, and by the time this airs, we'll probably be midway through a really exciting project for us, which is the Chief Executive recruitment for the Chamber of Commerce. And I say that's quite exciting because we've been members of the Chamber, haven't we, since we first started the business. We've learned loads from there, and
have used their business support services, haven't we, from the very beginning, actually, and kind of. And it's been grateful so that they helped us on the path to where we've kind of been as a business, really.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we've done, we do the networking with the Chamber. We've seen how many other businesses help. So to be able to support with such a key role in the area that then in turn will help and, support and give back to other businesses is really exciting. So it's a super exciting role, kickstarting the new year.
And it's really great to win it. It went to a tender, tender process, and we kind of went through that kind of process, but ultimately it's nice to come back off a kind of win, actually, what we submitted and our background of recruiting senior higher roles and being kind of internal kind of worked quite well, didn't it, towards winning that kind of project. So super happy about that.
Congratulations, kickstarting 2026, helping to recruit the new Chief Executive at the Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce is a statement in itself, so congratulate you fully with that. The Chambers of Commerce are very good friends of Business Spotlight as well. So it's really nice to help to share that news and help to share that with you across our listeners. But for now, Lee and Steve, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for going into so much about your industry and also your own personal journeys. Will you come back?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think we should do, shouldn't we? We will do,
Brilliant. That's Lee and Steve from Logic Resourcing here on Business Spotlight with me, Sonya Farrell.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.